Hello and welcome to Improving Student Attainment and Employability in the UAE with Skills Education, a roundtable discussion held in partnership between Time to Higher Education and Coursera for Campus. My name is Ashton Wemborn and I'm the Special Projects Deputy Editor at THE. I'll be chairing today's session. So if you could all just turn your cameras on for the discussion, that would be really useful. And if you can introduce yourselves and your institution when you first speak, that's also very helpful. And if you'd like to get my attention at any point in the discussion today, please go ahead and just jump on in, or you can use the raise hand reaction button on your screen as well. Student employability is a pressing issue for universities in the UAE, with skills-focused education and the creation of lifelong learners at the centre of the conversation. The implementation and delivery of this new model of teaching presents many strategic challenges that institutions must overcome. So I'd like to begin today's discussion by asking if blended learning is the way forward for institutions in the UAE, and what the benefits and drawbacks of that blended approach might be. Perhaps, Dr. Mohammed, would you like to start us off today and let us know your approach at your institution?
Yes, sure, dear. Dr. Tom is here with us. Also, he's our professor at Abu Dhabi University. I'm Mohammed Iftayah, Deputy Campus Director of Al Ain Campus and Chair of Smart Learning Center in Abu Dhabi University and the Associate Professor of Special Education. In Abu Dhabi University, we are trying our best actually, since we are a young university. We are almost 16, 17 years university and age of our age, and we had a great achievements when it came to accreditation. We are a WASC accredited university. Also, in addition to the program accreditation, which you know that majority of those accreditation entities are supporting the employability and students attainment program. So we are a believer of putting our students during their journey in university and even after as an alumni priority in Abu Dhabi University. And this is like our main theme in ADU. We have an alumni employability center and also alumni center, which we support on both areas. I think things will also come in based on the discussion, what we are doing as ADU in supporting our students. We have graduate attributes that we are working with all departments or colleges to prepare our students to be a future leaders in the community. Try our best to work on competences-based approach in which we provide them with several competences related to employability, such as teamwork, leadership skill, effective communication skills. Those are required in the job market, in addition to the knowledge competences. So we try to focus on both knowledge competences that they should have as a graduate from Abu Dhabi University, in addition to the work-related competences in different programs.
Thank you. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about those competencies that you mentioned. How do you identify what's going to be in demand in the workplace?
Yeah, great question, Ashton. Actually, always we are, as you know, in UAE in general, we look in advance. Now we are working even EDU government on 2071 agenda and trying to empower those competences in our students, looking for the future and what we need from those citizens, both expats and citizen students who are enrolled in Abu Dhabi University. So we identify around 8 competences, or we call it graduate attributes. And those 8, I'll mention them in a minute. We embedded them with our syllabi to make it more practical for the students and to benefit from it. So it's not only he's taking a theoretical information from our courses and our syllabi, he's also empowered with the main competencies that the employer in the future are looking for. So it's, as I said, it's a journey. So when a student is joining an internship program, there is a specific period that, or specific, even before the period, specific skills that he should have. And in collaboration with the internship office department and employability department, we find a suitable institution for the students to take his internship, and we look for the outcome. We follow with him step by step to guarantee that he's achieving those graduate attributes. Those graduate attributes are, let me just one second, because I need to give you those in detail without having missing any of these attributes. So let's start with effective communication. Then, okay, just one second, please. Leadership skills, effective communication, teamwork, digitalization or computer skills and IT skills, innovation and creativity, corporate social responsibilities. In addition, as I said, to the leadership, which is related, like we for all of our students we try, but it's mainly also for the BG students to be equipped with such competencies. So those are like the main ones that we try to provide our students with, and we align those 6 of them with the undergraduate and the 8 with the BG program, which students are ready to join any institution or any employment or any career based on his also competencies that he is having. We have several programs in engineering, in health sciences, and College of Arts and Science, also College of Law. So each college, they have their own mapping process with those with those attributes, and then we follow it from, again, a holistic approach from the provost and the provost, the associate provost and the deans and the associate deans, to guarantee all these goals are achieved, in addition to the quality assurance programs that we are, to guarantee that all things are in the right track, and we guarantee that our students will be getting a good chance in the future to be in the right place.
Thank you. Alex, I wonder if you could speak to us a little bit about the approach that you're taking at your institution. Dr. Mohammed mentioned that kind of skills-based competencies approach, and is that something that's worked well for you as well, or is there a little bit of difference there?
Great. Thank you very much for the invitation. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. HCT is by far the largest applied science university in the country, with 20,000 plus students enrolled. And actually, we're just convocating 4,000 students this week here at Expo. So we got a pretty large student body, and its strength of HCT is its regional representation. We are located in almost all the Emirates, and we are able to represent the economic demands and needs of each particular emirate, each particular region, and that is the essence of the success of HCT over its 30-year history. The whole aspect of skills-based learning for employability, as this is the topic of this panel, goes beyond core competencies. Those are a given. Those are embedded, have been embedded since the first days of programming at HCT. So then it's a matter of how you go about assessing those, how you go about refreshing the technical ones over time as the job market changes. And we wrote the job profiles with Mohe, Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization in the sectors that have been identified as priority sectors by the government. And so those job profiles have been validated in 60 areas with companies directly providing their input. So you base your curriculum on the assumption, first of all, that the core competencies such as teamwork, collaboration, communications, all those types of things are there. And then you overlay that with the technical skills that go along with it. Then you then have to have the proper assessors, and you have to have that proper relationship with your industry partners. So all of our programs have work experiential learning embedded and work integrated learning embedded in the programs, so that the students get out and actually practice what they are learning in the labs and in the classrooms. And you have employers that assess on the job the student's ability to demonstrate those skills in a real work environment. There's nothing virtual reality simulation. We deal with the real world because that's what industry demands. And then on top of that, which is a key strength and a competitive advantage HCT has over most education institutions, higher education institutions in the world, is two components. One, international accreditation for our programs. We are just finishing up our ABET accreditation as we speak. Plus, we have our professional certified certification qualifications, where we have industry related qualifications embedded in our curriculum that our students then pass those exams, whether it's in accounting or SolidWorks or in the computer sciences area. And so those things then ensure that you have a truly skills-based education curriculum framework and ability to assess the competencies across all programs.
Thank you. You've spoken a lot there about assessment, and I suppose a significant part of measuring student attainment is how effectively they can move from a position of studying to the workplace. And the way that we get them into the workplace is by allowing them to leave with recognizable and valuable credentials. So I wonder, perhaps Professor Abalasha, could you speak to us a little bit about your approach with assessment and the way that you have perhaps structured that to ensure student attainment moves into the workplace as well?
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity, and it's a wonderful discussion. I was listening to Professor Muhammad and Alex as well, and a couple of things which we are doing here also. I will come to the assessment part, but there are three things which are very important for the institution. First of all, internship, whether it is an undergrad program or a graduate program, in most of the graduate program, internships are there. So that is one way to have industry supervisor mentor the students. And this is a part of the assessment as well. So when the grades are given, it is not that the faculty supervisor is grading the student, rather industry supervisor, and the more weightage is given to the industry supervisor. That's one. Second thing, which we are currently doing, is like when the pandemic started and suddenly it was like in a couple of days we have to just move quickly. Everything became online. Frankly speaking, we were not prepared for that. And I don't know about other institutions. Of course, there are institutions where they were offering already online courses, some of them. We never offered online courses. We were a traditional face-to-face university. So in a very less time, we have to move. And then we started basically talking about and discussing about how to come up with an innovative pedagogy as well as assessment. So many of the assessments which were traditional assessment of midterm and final exam were converted into project. Now, when it is a project-based education or assessment, it's more like there is a complex problem and you have to solve the problem. So the assessment, again, it required some industry input, and we started engaging our members of the industry advisory board. So The student has to solve the problem. He's having industry mentorship as well. And end of the semester, he has to present that. So whatever is the outcome of that project, he has to present. This also required the students to attend 6 hours of workshop. So of course, the workshops were earlier given through Teams, MS Team, which was the platform which we are using. Currently, it is the students are coming on campus, and it is kind of mandatory workshop. So for 400 onwards course, 400 and 600, there are some bridging courses also, which is at 500 level, but 400 and 600 level courses for undergrad and graduate, we started having more and more 6 hours of mandatory industry workshop where the industry speaker comes, they give a short problem. It can be anything. It can be related to what happened like in recently in LinkedIn, Facebook, or some ethical issues, or data privacy, or anything, which is like where students have to really critical thinking is required, complex problem solving is required. And I also agree with what we are doing also here with what Alex has mentioned, that our many of our courses, many of our programs and the courses which we are offering, the specialization which we are offering, are also aligned with the professional association. Like HR is aligned with SHRM, marketing is aligned with CIMA. We also have accounting, which is aligned with CMA. So the professional association, when the courses which you are offering is also giving an opportunity to the students that once you complete, you can just give the exam. So kind of the micro credentials or the certifications which are required is embedded in the program itself. So these are a couple of points I just wanted to mention.
Thank you. That's very interesting. I think especially your point on those micro-credentials. I think there's been a bit of a shift in the last few years towards that more personalized kind of ability for students to pick a more personal pathway. Kerry, I wonder if that's a trend that you've observed through your users on Coursera.
So yeah, I'd like to pick up a little bit on what's been said there. The trends that we've been seeing, and I think Mr. Zavich, you mentioned you have a heavier focus on the tech and digital skills, and I think the graduate attributes that the team building, the creative thinking, those types of things, I think universities are more comfortable in working to integrate those skills. I think where the challenge maybe is coming, and what we're seeing from the 86 million learners on Coursera, is that the really high in demand skills across the world, but also in the UAE, are more predominantly in the areas of cybersecurity, data analytics, AI. And I think these are the skills that, regardless of your industry, whether it's accounting, whether it's healthcare, whatever you're going to go and work in the future, data analysis, the basics of AI are going to affect, in fact, they are affecting our daily lives, but also our working lives. And I think that's where we're seeing even students that are studying, even if they're doing English literature degrees, for example, we will see demand from those students to have the basics of SQL, so that if they go into marketing roles, they will have the basics to be able to interrogate marketing databases. And so I think how universities can help students who have their core degrees, they need to become technical experts in mechanical engineering, but how that's paired with the trends that we're seeing and how we're opening students' minds to help them understand how that's affecting where they're going to end up working. I think that is where, from Coursera's own data, we're seeing needs. And I'd be interested to know from the group also, if through your alumni networks you're getting students coming back to you asking for support with those types of areas. Would you say that's the challenging area for universities? Are you able to scale up that type of support, and are you pairing that with what is core to an accountancy degree, for example?
Thank you, Kerry. That's a really interesting question, which I'd love to put to our panel today. Aisha, perhaps, sorry, I've just seen Dr. Mohammed as well as raised his hand, but we can certainly come to everyone here on that question of alumni network support.
Yes, I think we're very fortunate in HCT that we are we are actually the highest or the largest federal institution for higher education in the United Arab Emirates, and we've got over 75,000 graduates. And most of our graduates and alumni are in key positions in the UAE in terms of government as well as private sector. So we've got the opportunity to tap into the network when it comes to employability. But going back to the question of integrating, technology into, say, for example, an accounting program, we're looking at the professional bodies and to give advice on not only what the technical skills the students will need, but also what are the technology that the students are required to use when they graduate. For example, we're bringing in blockchain into the accounting curriculum. We're using simulations. We're using softwares that they will use when they graduate from the college. And more importantly, say for example, our accounting program is our students get like 10 exemptions for the ACCA qualification. So this is all tools that are helping our students to be prepared for the job market. And also the alumni, yes, we're actually seeing there's a huge demand for the technology and aspects, but also for the soft skills. Because more and more when we talk to our industry partners, they're saying that the technical skills are fine, but we also need people who are flexible, who are agile, who've got persistent, persevering tools. All of these soft skills are important for to prepare these students for the very dynamic work environment that we are in, and also in the uncertain environment that they will be operating in. So flexibility, for example, is going to be important, agility. So all these tools are important, and one of the programs that we're looking at is bringing the alumni back into the colleges and offering them the skills that they require on demand, depending on what they're looking for. So this is one of the things that we want to provide our alumni with.
Thank you. And Dr. Mohammed, did you want to also jump in on that point?
Yes, Ashton. I just want to comment on Kerry's contribution also, or points. It's an important for any higher education institution to focus on. And for me, it's the two main concepts: to have really a competent graduate, practicability of our syllabi or courses that we are giving to our students, so they will be able to get something at least from, because all of you know now, knowledge is available, so they can go to any internet page or any location and got all this information. What they are looking for, what they benefit functionally from what we are giving to those students. For that also, I'll second Alex's point about the international accreditation for program. I mean, specifically accreditation in Abu Dhabi University, all of our program almost accredited from ABIT, from different institutions, which really support also our graduate students to have a strength and competences which aligned with the UAE vision and 2071. In addition, to support our alumni, we created something called Alumni Academy, in which our graduate students, they have a chance to attend several professional development certificate programs offered by the Alumni Academy, which is aligned with the market requirement. So we don't look at it from course-related areas like what we are giving in the university, but we try to give them those competences that really the market will look at, like colleagues mentioned, artificial intelligence, and embedding this not only with the engineering areas, even with education, with other related, because it's required now and it's needed. So we have to prepare them to be an effective graduates and ready to have a work after finishing from the university.
Thank you for that contribution. And Dr. Alameri, I see that you also had a point to make there.
Thank you, Ashton. Yes, for HCT, alumni are two types now. Today we have HCT 4.0, we have one theme, which is graduating companies. So we have alumni as individuals, graduates, and alumni as also companies, startups that they have gone through certain development process and coaching until they receive the status of established startup. Established startup, it means a startup that have more than one owner, founder. They have trade license and they have revenue, so they are in operation. So we support them up to 2 years in terms of taking them into different venture capitals. Also, we have agreements with number of fund providers, government at local levels and federal levels. So this is one type of support. Another type of support, if you visit to the HCT website, you will see the catalog. And in that catalog, you will see for every program where there is a professional certification. The professional certification does not, or the support does not end at the time where a student graduate, but you will see after graduation, some of those professional certification goes into from associate to full member to master or principal. So we support also, that support is also available for our alumni. So these are the areas that we encourage our alumni to come back and get improvement through those two areas, whether they're startups or they're in their professional certification. One very important element of embedding professional certification is the mindset of lifelong learning. Unfortunately, a number of graduates, they think learning stops by obtaining that degree. No, making them part of a professional society or professional body where they are required to attend conferences, to get PDUs. So we support them.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Alameri, I think we might have just lost your audio there.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
so
problem.
that is the support starts with the mindset, and definitely with this professional certification today, we see the government of the UAE are launching support to develop UAE nationals through NAFIS programs in attaining skills through those professional certifications. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. You mentioned that government support, and we've also heard a little bit today about the Vision 2071. And I wanted to speak a little bit more about the role that those sorts of programs have for your institutions and how you're interacting and reacting to those visions. So as part of Vision 2071, the UAE is placing a greater focus on knowledge-based industries, and also aiming to create an open and globally integrated business environment. So I wonder if you have found that your students or perhaps your institutions and your industry partners have become more internationally focused, more open to that kind of cross-border collaboration. Perhaps Professor Mamar, are you able to speak to us a bit about that?
Yes, definitely. I'm sorry, I was late because there was a technical problem. I am Professor Muammar Battayeb, Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Studies at University of Sharjah in the UAE. Yes, definitely we are giving a lot of importance to to employability and how it fits in the vision of UAE, all vision including 2071. As you know, at all points in the whole world, many jobs are at risk, and therefore, for somebody to sustain his job and make progress, he has to sustain his knowledge, isn't it? He has to sustain his knowledge, and therefore this lifelong learning behavior has to be automatic to all people. Now, for our students, we want to solve the problem not when they are at their 4th year or when they are graduating. We want to also solve it from the beginning. And from the beginning, meaning from year 1. So we did some, at University of Sharjah, we did some action plan that we are trying to implement these days that may help them increase the employability rate. And one of them is to enhance their training with respect with the companies, with the organizations outside, so that it can start from year 1. As you know, we just received, all universities received recently from the Ministry of Education that we want to increase the training of students from 8 weeks to 16 weeks. And therefore, one way to do it is to start or let students get involved from year 1 and train in the companies every opportunity they have, every summer from year 1 to year 4. That's one possibility. The other possibility is in every college, and sometimes even in departments, but every college has what we call advisory committee. This advisory committee is composed of major CEOs, managers, and directors of important organizations, industries, private and public sectors, government departments in the country, and they are members, and we meet at least once a semester and discuss with them our curriculum, and we get feedback from them from what is it to be changed in the curriculum to guarantee a higher employability of the student, and therefore to incorporate in the curriculum this curriculum and extracurriculum skills that the students need to be able to be employed. So these are actions we are doing that are compatible with the Vision 2027. We are incorporating in our curriculum innovation, employability, innovation, entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence to help the student be ready for all types of new jobs.
Thank you. We've spoken there a little bit about internationalization, but I think it's also important to remember that a lot of international borders have been closed for the last few years. And Professor Abalasha, you mentioned earlier the challenges of moving to online learning and delivery. And I think it's important to think about the fact that we're not quite past that crisis yet either, but that doesn't necessarily have to halt international collaboration. So perhaps you could speak to us a little bit about whether you think people's mindsets of what it means to have an international approach, has that changed? Are people more open to, this sort of interaction where we can all be in different countries?
Let me just take a step back and just mention a couple of points that the collaboration, which was basically a challenge earlier, was a little bit, I can say it was less challenging during the pandemic. One thing which we noticed that the pandemic has compelled the people to come together. The accessibility was more. People were willing to join, and I'm sure everyone might have noticed that a lot of seminars and webinars suddenly, that like there was webinars were a buzz, and it was, everyone was talking about webinars. So and it gave a lot of learning opportunities. So the mindset of the people, which was like I think this revolution in higher education sector was expected long back, but the pandemic, it just triggered it. And the international collaboration is much more now a focus for all institutions, for us as well. And we are now taking a step to have program-specific collaborations for research. This is also being mandated by the Commission for Academic Accreditation here, by the Ministry of Education. And they are also asking like what kind of research collaborations you are having. So it's not that whatever we are doing at the institution level, how you are collaborating with others, how you are creating an impact on the community, and how you are making yourself visible. So it's not about the institution, but it's also about the country as a whole, the nation as a whole. So that is about the international collaboration. And we have already initiated, we were having institutional level collaborations, but we started basically program level collaboration now. So for each program, research collaborations are becoming very common. Also, if you look, because you have mentioned 2071, and if you look at the 4 pillars, the 2 major pillars are basically related with higher education, with the education sector. Let me put this way, like whether you call about like excellence in education, quality education, excellent education, or you talk about knowledge economy. So while we moved from the business economy to knowledge economy, but knowledge sharing was not that obvious. So we are, through this joint collaboration, through this internationalization, we are looking for such kind of collaboration, such kind of knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer, which probably all the universities in the region, they are working on it.
Thank you. You spoke a little bit about a slight shift in student approaches to learning, and I wonder, Kerry, if that's something that Coursera has noticed. Are people intending or preferring to learn in a different manner as a result of the COVID pandemic and then also moving forward?
It's a great question. I think when the pandemic came about, obviously we were all thrown into having to do everything completely differently. University partners that we talk to and work with, one day everything is on campus, and most universities globally were operating on campus, to having to have everything online. And I think that was a difficult transition for some. Some were better prepared than others. But what we've seen is now things are starting to ease a little in many countries, where now universities are considering what is the best way forward. And most universities that I have spoken to have decided that actually, as we just heard from Professor Singh, that we can, there was a trigger, a catalyst that sort of has meant now that we can evaluate different options, because we were forced to do everything online. But actually we've started to see that there is benefits in having a mix. And so some students, they want to come to campus, they've missed that, they want to be on campus, they want that community, they're 18 years old, they want to feel part of that. But for other students, I think this has opened and given us a chance to widen participation in education in many ways. For people who weren't able to come full-time to campus, maybe they have family situations where they have to care for children, but they would love to learn, but they couldn't come and commit to that full-time study. Maybe they are working as well as studying. And I think that has given actually universities opportunities to offer more flexible models while still servicing the students that want to come to campus. But even those students that came full-time to campus, I think there are things that they can enjoy doing and would prefer to do online, and would prefer to use their on-campus time for their professor to be their guide, their mentor, their tutor, and sort of not be in a room where the professor is delivering the lecture and they're just sat there taking notes, and it's not that interactive experience, which I think is, most universities now are evaluating that. And I think the students are perhaps becoming a little more demanding in the type of experience they're expecting in terms of online, the blend, and what actually happens on campus. So that's the sort of reflections that I have seen from my conversations with universities around the region. And I'd love to hear if that reflects what our colleagues here on the call today have seen in their own institutions.
Thank you, Kerry. Dr. Thomas, did you want to jump in on that point?
Well, I can jump in on that. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all. How are you, Kerry? It's been a while.
Good, thank you. It has.
I want to acknowledge my colleague, Professor Mohammed, who is a professor of education, so has a bit of an edge, perhaps, in his understanding of the teaching profession and of the learning profession, which our students all engage in. He is the newly named director of our Smart Learning Center as well, which takes advantage of the digital platforms that we are all now very much familiar with. Yes, I want to take maybe a little bit of a spin on what Kerry just said about what students are expecting. We're discovering that students do want to come back to campus, especially the undergraduates. They miss the interaction with faculty directly and with each other as students. I think when you look at graduate provision, many students would just as soon not come to campus. They would like very much to be able to take courses asynchronously and to participate in very different ways. I want to address something slightly different from what the conversation has been up until this point. I'm the provost at Abu Dhabi University, but before this, I was a commissioner with the CAA, worked in the Ministry of Education. So I've been on that side as well. I was also for a time the provost at American University of Sharjah. So I was kind of seeing this country from many different perspectives. But one thing that I think we need to understand is all of our focus today, at least, and I think most faculty, and I think most academic administrators focus on the formal aspects of education. We try to fill the days and the hours of our students with instruction. We identify the course learning outcomes, the program learning outcomes. We identify through the QF Emirates exactly where students should be as they progress through the system. And I caution that perhaps we should slow down a little bit. And rather than add additional programs, and Kerry, you and I have talked about micro-credentialing, and I'm a real fan of micro-credentialing, don't get me wrong. But I think that students have to come at education, their own education, from their own perspective. And we as educators have to envision where they need to be, not just going into day one of their first job, but their second career, their third career, their fifth career 30 years from now, and try to figure out what do we need to provide them in order for them to be prepared for that as well. And it's a wonderful thing that they come back to us, and HCT is a world leader in providing additional value for its alumni, and I congratulate you on that. But at the same time, we can't give them everything they need. So I think what we need to do is provide them with an environment in which they can explore, when they can discover other kinds of things that they want to know. I think what I'm seeing in this country, and I've been here now for 12 years, I'm seeing a rigidification, if you will, a commoditization of education, so that we think if we can just give them one more building block, if we can just give them one more direction to go, one more concentration, so that they can narrow down. And I suggest that maybe we should be opening education up and say, spend more time in your clubs, or if you want to learn about leadership, don't take a course in leadership, run a program, start something up. We have an innovation center, we have incubators, we incentivize those kinds of activities. But there's nothing like watching a bunch of young women get together on a volleyball team and figure out who the leader is, who the followers are. And when you have to be a leader, when you have to be a follower, they learn as much in those kinds of settings. And sometimes I think they even learn more than they do in yet another class, yet another requirement. Our engineering programs, and I have to say probably at yours as well, now require 136 credit hours. You can't do it in 4 years anymore. I keep telling our dean in engineering, maybe we should reduce it down, give them another couple electives, let them take a course in sociology or in philosophy or in music theory. Why not? Why not have an engineering student also study something that uses the other side of the brain? We call them soft skills, but I think that they are essential skills. And it's not just the skills, the technical skills that one needs in order to get into that first job. I think that there's a lot more to education that we may be missing out on by focusing so much on the formalities and the templates and the boxes to be filled. Our students are not empty vessels to be filled with knowledge. They are living, organic human beings who need to be given opportunities to stretch their intellectual muscle and to grow. End of sermon.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. That was very interesting. Professor Abelasha, did you want to respond to any of those comments there?
No, I just wanted to say that I was dying to hear this comment. It's such a valuable comment which has been made because on one hand, we want our students to be innovative and we talk about innovation. On the other hand, we really put them in a tight box. So it's so much structured, everything. The syllabus is structured. This is what they have to be, it has to be offered. This is the QFE level. This is what we need to do. So it is so much tight. I mean, as I was provost earlier, and I have been in this region for more than 13, 14 years now. And I keep seeing that every year it is becoming tough and tough and tough. So, and so much is structured. Whenever anything will be structured, people will basically, they will be dead scared to commit a mistake. And when we are dead scared to commit a mistake, we never learn, we never operate freely. We never learn from our mistakes. So what innovation we are talking about? So if we want this innovation to flourish, then somewhere probably we need to keep it free as well, right? So I completely agree with what Professor Thomas has mentioned, that we need to give some flexibility. He was talking about essential skills. I basically talk about the same thing, and I say these are life skills. You need to learn about these things. I teach a course, organizational development, and I have a structured syllabus, and I have a textbook to be followed, and I have a research article to be followed. Fine, I do those things. Frankly speaking, I do those things. But I also enjoy just going to the class and talking about something else, talking about a simple change which was not successful, talking about some mergers and acquisition which has happened in the industry. So those part, I really completely agree with him. And I wish probably there will be a time where little bit it can slow down. The pace is so fast, and we keep talking about innovation, but I just feel like we are teaching, there is a course, mandatory course on innovation, which has been mandated by the ministry, and it is being offered in all undergraduate programs across the UAE, all universities accredited by CAA. The question comes that what we are teaching. Are the students doing something in incubators? Are the students like working on their own startups? Are we having such kind of funding opportunities for them? So those questions needs to be answered. I thoroughly enjoyed Professor Thomas, your comment, and I wish sometime I will see you soon, and we will take this further discussion, definitely. Thank you
very much. And Dr. Mohammed, please also go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I agree with Dr. Thomas and Dr. Abihlesha. It's a valid point, both what they said, and we need always to, as in higher education institutions, to put in our mind that we are dealing with the human. There is a lot of individual differences. There is variations. There is different learning styles. The issue that being committed with the syllabus, it's creating an issue for our students. And I witnessed a lot of students that they repeat the course for 5 or 6 times without any benefits. They're saying, why I have to have such course which I will not benefit from it in the future. So I think some transformation need to be done in our freedom that we are giving to our students, way of delivering the information for them and the knowledge. Since we all know that the knowledge now is available, it's there in the accessible for anyone. They are looking for something distinguished and something different. We at ADU we worked on the first year experience and second year experience and third year experience project, in which we try our best to look at it from practical point of view as much as we can. But again, as Dr. Thomas mentioned and the professor, that we have a limitation, which we have to follow a specific pattern or specific format. And I hope that we come in an era that all these things are flexible, and we can, as a faculty members, as chairs and coordinators, try to control these things rather than controlling us, those syllabi or those courses.
Thank you very much. I'd like to circle back to a point that Kerry raised earlier, which was about widening participation and the way that flexibility and micro-credentials and, kind of rethinking pedagogical approaches can allow for more diverse cohorts and to widen that participation. And I wonder, perhaps Ayesha, you could speak to us about that. Is widening participation something that you're prioritizing at your institution, and how are you putting that into practice?
Yeah, definitely we are. This whole pandemic has opened really it's created a paradigm shift in education, and it's of course going to bring about transformation. And if you look at globally, the number of students that are in active, education versus the ones that are not, and what is the opportunity that technology, for example, will provide for those who are not participating currently. That's going to be a huge game changer in education. In the higher colleges of technology, of course, the participation is going to help a broad spectrum of students. The advantage we had is we already were offering online courses, and when the pandemic hit us, I think it was very easy for us to kind of pivot the online and the hybrid education. But one thing that we're really looking at is how is this, and examining very closely, is how is this hybrid education going to bring on more students to HCT, and this provides us an opportunity to grow, to cater to alumni, to cater to students who would not necessarily have access to, maybe because of their family environment, like mothers who are looking after young children, or family members looking after elderly parents, or people who are in full-time employment. Providing these group of people who are currently not participating to the ability to participate, and widening the net is something very important for us, and as well as I'm sure for other universities. I just wanted to comment also on the point about how online education is perceived prior to the pandemic, and how it's going to be perceiving moving forward, not only in the UAE but also globally. I think to a large extent, especially in our part of the world, online education, online degree was not viewed favorably. But I think now, with a lot of the, for the past 2 years, a lot of the programs being delivered online, I think that is going to be shifting, and that's also going to increase the participation, where people can actually take completely online, earn online degrees, and the ministry, CAA, for example, is open to that possibility, and that was not really perhaps something that was available like prior to the pandemic.
Thank you very much. Alex, I wonder if you agree with that idea that the perception of online education has changed as a result of the last few years of disruption?
It's an interesting question. I think it depends upon the demographic. Just to build a little bit off of what Thomas had said, I think the last year and a bit, the world kind of lost touch with the fact that there's people involved in all aspects of the work life, and the work from home, work from away, living and teaching and learning online created a massive disconnect from the human being. The social psychological impact is just now beginning to be felt. Industry is dealing with the whole aspect about work from home, and also the expectations. I mean, and I go back to the demographic differences here. You have the Gen Zs, the millennials, the Gen Xs, and some of us still boomers, which I don't want to readily admit, have had to take a hard look at the workplace and also the learning place, the learning environment, which can include online. Let's not kid ourselves. Online learning is just an evolution from 40 years ago when the first correspondence courses were being delivered. When you received a package and you studied and you sent back your assignment, you sent back your project and it was marked. And then cassette tapes came along. Okay, so this is nothing new. Let's not kid ourselves. Okay, this has been around for a while. So now this is just a different form of technology delivery, providing access to knowledge and education. But what is becoming evident is that social psychological impact, not just on a screen like this, but in a physical, face-to-face conversation, collaborative conversation in a classroom, in a lab, is absolutely critical to successful learning. Plain simple. You will have those few, and it's a small percentage, it's not a high percentage. High achievers, yes, they'll want to run with online learning. You will have a large percentage that will use online learning as a means to hide and not face the music in front of a class and their colleagues. But ultimately, if you're going to truly accomplish what you want to with learning and education, you have to have that human interaction beyond a two-dimensional screen, which we have in front of us. And you see that from the students, you see that from the faculty. You're getting as much burnout from the faculty teaching online as you do the students, for heaven's sakes. It's exhausting. I mean, we've had to change our loading requirements with our faculty because of this reality. So I think people are going to be taking stock, to answer your question, of the value of it, of the success of it. And it's going to take a little while to work its way through the system in terms of how you're going to continue to deliver online education. And I think you're going to see, a pullback in some aspects. And in other aspects, you're going to see, more get back on campus, get into the lab, touch things, turn dials, take blood, all those types of things that are the reality of the real world on that level.
Thank you very much. And that actually brings us to the end of today's session. So I would just like to thank all of our panelists for joining us today, sharing your insights. It was very interesting, very fruitful discussion. I hope that you feel the same way. We certainly hope to speak with you all again soon. An on-demand video of today's session will be available, and we'll also have a summary article. So please do keep an eye out for that and get in touch if you have any follow-up questions. But for now, I will just say again, thank you very much for joining us today.